Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I bet you thought I was going to be muted. No, I'm definitely not muted. I don't think we need to introduce anybody. It's we could. Was there 2 or 3 members in Right Said Fred? I can never remember.
I think there were. I don't know. It was two ball ones, wasn't it?
Definitely. I will hand you straight over to Catz because he's far more sensible and far more capable of explaining what tonight is all about.
Right. Anyone who watched a couple of weeks ago will remember that. I think I've just got the watch page playing. Anyone who watched a couple of weeks ago will remember that Brooomie come on for this a debate, like a rematch. We had a debate last year at some point, but there was some cross wires. He was working. We missed each other's communications, whatever, and he was late, and we didn't really have a debate. It was like half hour, 35-minute chat. So he's back tonight just for that rematch. We're going to structure it a little bit more this time. He has brought 2 topics and some presentations he's going to deliver. I've got the same, and we'll split it up. So we're not stuck on the same topic like we were last time going over and over. We will just, we've got it a little bit more structured for you. And then that's the end of Flat Earth for a while. Next week, we've got an excellent debate coming up, but I'll tell you more about that at the end of the show. But we did, behind the scenes, toss a coin, and Brooomie gets to go first. By the way, Brooomie, everyone was asking why am I calling you Brooomie, and I've forgotten even why I'm calling you Brooomie. Why do I call you Brooomie?
Brooomie. They call me Brooomie because Brooomie, innit? Birmingham, Brooomie. That's what it meant, and that's why they started calling me Brooomie, and then now it's that's become the name.
It was never your Twitter handle or anything. Never handle on Discord.
No, well, that's what I mean. The Discord name, yeah, they was all naming me in Gem Panda server. They all named me Brooomie.
Right. So what should I call you then? Have I been taken?
Whatever. Tommy Enge, Brooomie, whatever, however you identify me as, I'm all right, man. Right. I'm happy.
Right. Well, I'll pass you over to Creaky. I'll put myself on mute while you do your thing, and I shall be preparing my destruction of it.
All right, I'll love to see you try.
Right. So because we're gentlemen, we're gonna let Tommy Brooomie go first. He's got an 8-minute presentation to make. So, Tommy, whenever you're ready, give me the nod and I will start the timer for you.
I've got a link. So, but if you just want to play that rather than, because I don't have to do the screen sharing and all that, so it'll be a bit difficult. 1 second.
Okay. Send the link and I'll.
There it is. There you go, sir.
It says video unavailable, video private.
Oh, yeah. 1 second. I'll have to change the settings on that. Just uploaded it, you see.
Okay.
Options. How do I change the options? Oh, yeah, there it is. Right. Public. Has it changed? Publish. There you go. It's published now. It's processing the HD version. Sorry about that delay.
Right. It's ready to go whenever we are now, yeah? So
ready when you are, yeah.
Let it play and put it full. I'll put it full screen, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
If I shared the screen, though, wouldn't it? Most definitely.
Will I be able to hear it Creaky through StreamYards, or will I need to watch the watch page?
Yeah. No, you'll be able to hear it. We got all the gadgets now, and not a clue how to use them. There we are. Right, okie dokie. Video playing now.
I have never or will ever identify myself as a flat earther, because when you call someone a flat earther, what you're actually calling them is your preconceived notions of what you think a flat earther is. Now, your opinion of me is not my opinion of myself. Most people don't even know what a flat earther is. They think it's somebody that denies science. When, in fact, from my experience speaking to flat earthers, they absolutely embrace it and love every aspect about science. Real science where you can demonstrate. Some of you may just think that they are misguided, uneducated, or unqualified to speak on these matters, when you don't have to go to university to learn the concepts and learn the geometry, learn the mathematics, and test it for yourself. Now, all the information is one Google search away from you. So this is exposed to everybody in the world, and some people have come up with different conclusions. And just because they're not the same conclusions you came to, or the people that you hold authority to, doesn't mean that they are wrong, and doesn't mean that you are right. Personally, myself, I've spent my whole life looking into science. I love science films. I love the idea of space travel. You know, live long and prosper. I even about 13 years ago watched Thunderfoot, and I used to laugh at his videos about laughing at creationists. And I adopted a lot of his views, became atheist, but looking back on it was a huge mistake. Things that used to help me side in Thunderfoot because Ray would hold a banana, not knowing the banana's been genetically modified, and he would give credence to it, saying, you know, look how God designed this banana. And I guess it's hard to side with somebody that makes such errors. And I bring this up because I understand that when somebody brings an argument when they don't quite know the details and how they can be completely dismissed and discredited from...
And if you can hear me, but the whole thing's echoing, it needs to...
I'm just a normal person like anybody else.
What's it doing, Tom?
There's an echo coming through possibly someone else's mic, not through mine, but it literally is just, it's echoing for everybody, so they can't really hear it, I think.
Right, okay, I'll try it again. Now, I've got headphones on, but I'll mute my mic just in case.
It's not my echo, by the way. Everyone's complaining in the chat saying I'm echoing. Well, my mic's muted.
I thought it was some kind of funky sound effect you put on deliberately. I thought it was like some kind of weird editing, hypnotic thing. Right.
No. Try again, I guess.
I've got a good education. I understand concepts very well, and I'm open-minded to absolutely anything. Critical thinking.
Still there.
That's exactly why the best person to speak to today would be Baldy Catz here, who's a physics teacher, and will be able to answer the questions that I have. So the necessary antecedent for gas pressure is a container. Now, Baldy Catz has argued that gravity is the container. Gravity! When the torpedo increases in the dawn of space, it's gravity! When the golden light receives resides, the truth is there. The gas molecules just go everywhere. Gravity! When you lose a container, you lose the weight, it's gravity! When the globe in the eyes, when the sea with the eyes is so clear. The rockets come over, they're going nowhere. Thank you. All right then. So let's get down to business. Agree to disagree. Thank you very much for having me on the show yet again. The good thing I can say about the show is that both people get 8 minutes to present their case. Both sides get heard out, and there's no screaming and shouting at each other. And we get down to some proper science. Yes, that's right, you gamma bitches out there getting triggered. When I say proper science, I mean proper science. What you can demonstrate, not what you can calculate, not what formulas you can put together. What you can demonstrate, right? If your calculations are correct and all these things are accurate, then I'm sure you'll be able to demonstrate. You can back it up with a demonstration. That's what we want. A demonstration, not a mathematical equation. Not a fancy little word, you know. I want something I can see, something that can be digested, and not something that has to be theorized or just thought or to believe. Because what we want is empirical evidence. Now, if it is true what they're saying, that you live on an open surface inside of a low pressure system, being space, not spinning, we say we're rotating because we don't want to say spinning because that would imply the centrifugal forces, which would... Listen, I don't want to start giving you all a jargon. Let's bring it down. I don't think that me asking for a physical demonstration is me misunderstanding the model as it is. As Catz pointed out last week, saying that me pouring water on a ball was equivalent. Well, I think that's a false equivalency because I understand that the Earth's gravitational pull would dominate over the ball when he pours water on it. So I think that was a way of avoiding the question, avoiding answering the fact that you cannot demonstrate gas pressure about a container. It's a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. Now, if it's not, then demonstrate it. It's that simple. You can't demonstrate it, then it's going to be held as a violation. You know, entropy will always increase over time. Do you want to test my knowledge on what I understand about entropy? Do you want to get to the actual point of, well, I'm trying to make that gas will expand to fill the available space that it has, and it's not going out into space to you because apparently there's a thing called gravity, which is not a force according to Einstein. But you're saying it can be thought of a force. So, for example, if I I am not a giraffe, but I can think of myself as a giraffe. You know, is that the same? Yeah, I think it's quite the same. Why not? We could use it for anything. But my point being is that gas, yes, it has weight. When we talk about weight, we mean you mean gravity.
It's
Right.
not working.
What I mean is like the
I need to show it on my screen because it's just echoing or no one's listening to it.
Let's say you're in space and you're.
I can hear it normal on mine now.
You can hear it normal now.
Yeah, I can now.
Yeah, it's really ruined the presentation for us, but
it's all right. Well, we can put it back.
It just completely. I think if I screen share, then does it echo on mine or what?
No, I'm sure if you screen shared. Well, I don't know.
To the stream and it's echoing on the stream and everyone's just complaining.
I think you're still muted, Creaky. I can't hear you, buddy.
I haven't said anything.
All right.
That's probably why. Yes. So if you want to share your screen, Tom, I can just chuck it up on the screen for you then, and hopefully it won't have echo.
Could you put it could you put it on like speed and a half if it's up on YouTube?
Yeah.
Would it be too? Just unless you wanted to. It depends where you want to play.
I could do that once. Then I just screen share. I don't really want to share my screen, but
we'll make sure it's full.
If you maximize the YouTube video, Tom, it'll only show the video.
Oh yeah, I can see.
Yes, it's showing the side chat. Maximize the video.
1 second, let me redo that.
Right, it won't start sharing as soon as you hit share. Creaky's got to show it, so Creaky won't show it until you've got the video maximized.
Right then, so there's a video. I'll put it on speed and a half. You want, yeah?
Yeah, unless that ends up too fast, then you can. Yeah.
Okay. Now we're gonna go to screen share, and then we go to screen share. Go to window. There we go. Is that better?
Yeah. Maximize the video, Tom.
Sorry.
So and everything around it. Maximize the video, so you know in the bottom corner. There we are. Perfect. There we are. Hit play whenever you're ready, pal.
No, that's really quiet.
Yeah. Right, stop the video a minute, Tom. I don't know why we're having this issue. You know when you click share screen and then you have to choose a Chrome window? Did you tick share audio also in the bottom left-hand corner?
You're muted, Creaky.
Press play.
Check. Ready? Okay. Or will ever identify myself as a flat earther, because when you call someone a flat earther, what you're actually calling them is your preconceived notions of what you think a flat earther is. Now, your opinion of me is not my opinion of myself. Most people don't even know what a flat earther is. They think it's somebody that denies science. When, in fact, from my experience speaking to flat earthers, they absolutely embrace it and love every aspect about science. Real science you can demonstrate. Some of you may just think that they are misguided, uneducated, or unqualified to speak on these matters, when you don't have to go to a university to learn the concepts and learn the geometry, learn the mathematics, and test it for yourself. Now, all the information is one Google search away from you. So this is exposing to everybody in the world, and some people have come up with different conclusions. And just because they're not the same conclusions you've came to, or the people that you hold authority to, doesn't mean that they are wrong, and doesn't mean that you are right. personally, myself, I've spent my whole life looking into science. I love science films. I love the idea of space travel. You know, live long and prosper. I even about 13 years ago watched Thunderfoot, and I used to laugh at his videos about laughing at creationists. And I adopted a lot of his views, became atheist, but looking back on it was a huge mistake. Things that used to help me sided Thunderfoot is because Ray Comfort would hold a banana, not knowing the banana was genetically modified, and he would give credence to it, saying, "Oh, you know, look how God designed this banana." And I guess it's hard to side with somebody that makes such errors. And I bring this up because I understand that when somebody brings an argument, when they don't quite know the details, and they can be completely dismissed and discredited from the get-go. And that's the same sort of thing that's happening here with flat earthers. Now, I'm just a normal person like anybody else. I've got a good education. I can understand concepts very well, and I'm open-minded to everything. I'm a critical thinker. So that's exactly why the best person to speak to today would be Baldy Catz here, who's a physics teacher, and will be able to answer the questions that I have. So the necessary antecedent for gas pressure is a container. Now, Baldy Catz has argued that gravity is the container. Gravity! When entropy don't increase and it don't go to space, it's gravity. When a globe lies, when he sees with his eyes, the truth is there. The gas molecules just go everywhere. Gravity. When you lose a container, you lose the weight, it's gravity. When the globe denies, when the sea with the eyes, it's so clear. The rockets come over, they're going nowhere. Thank you. All right, then. So let's get down to business. Agree to disagree. Thank you very much for having me on the show yet again. The good thing I can say about this show is that both people get 8 minutes to present their case. Both sides get heard out, and there's no screaming and shouting at each other. And we can get down to some proper science. Yes, that's right, you gamma bitches out there getting triggered. When I say proper science, I mean proper science. What you can demonstrate, not what you can calculate, not what formulas you can put together. What you can demonstrate, right? If your calculations are correct and all these things are accurate, then I'm sure you'll be able to demonstrate. You can back it up with a demonstration. That's what we want. A demonstration, not a mathematical equation, not a fancy little word. You know, I want something I can see, something that can be digested, and not something that has to be theorized or just thought or to believe. Because what we want is empirical evidence. Now, if it is true what they're saying, that you live on an open surface inside of a low pressure system, being space, not spinning, we say we're rotating, because we don't want to say spinning because that would imply the centrifugal forces, which would, listen, I don't want to start giving you all a load of jargon. Let's bring it down. I don't think that me asking for a physical demonstration is me misunderstanding the model as it is, as Catz pointed out last week, saying that me pouring water on a ball was equivalent. Well, I think that's a false equivalency, because I understand that the Earth's gravitational pull would dominate over the ball when he pours water on it. So I think that was a way of avoiding the question, avoiding answering the fact that you cannot demonstrate gas pressure without a container. It's a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. Now, if it's not, then demonstrate it. It's that simple. You can't demonstrate it, then it's going to be held as a violation. You know, entropy will always increase over time. Do you want to test my knowledge on what I understand about entropy? Do you want to get to the actual point of what I'm trying to make? Will it expand till the available space that it has? And it's not going out into space to you, because apparently there's a thing called gravity, which is not a force according to Einstein. But you're saying it can be thought of a force. So, for example, if I am not a giraffe, but I can think of myself as giraffe. You know, is that the same? Yeah, I think it's quite the same. Why not? We could use it for anything. But my point being is that gas, yes, it has weight. When we talk about weight, we mean you mean gravity, right? But what I mean is like the mass of the material. For example, when you could be, let's say you're in space and you'll experience weightlessness because there's no gravitational pull on you, therefore you have no weight, but you still are made up of matter. So inherently you'd still have weight. For example, if I threw you in space into a wall, you would impact the wall just like a gas molecule does. So you need to understand that yes, gas molecules, they have weight, they have mass, they're made up of matter, it's a physical material. But when in their natural state, they experience weightlessness, they go off in all directions, they behave omnidirectional. Over time, entropy will increase. The gas molecules will always fill the available space that they have. You're saying it's not filling out and going into space because apparently there's a force called gravity, which Einstein said is not a force, holding it in and creating the gas pressure that we experience. The gradient is not a demonstration. At the end of the day, the gradient isn't exclusive to your model. It can be demonstrated and explained in a container. So it's not proof that you live in an open surface in low pressure. So if you can't demonstrate it, we must concede that you cannot demonstrate it. And secondly, do not expect people to believe that this is true because you've got some calculations. You cannot demonstrate it. It's not science, as far as I'm concerned. Yes, it may sound ridiculous, and you may say that my misunderstanding of the model is the reason you can't demonstrate it. But that, to me, is not explaining why it cannot be demonstrated. And saying it is the equivalent to a flat earther getting a ball and pouring water on it, saying why the water stick to the ball, is a false equivalency. I totally understand how the Earth's gravitational pull would be the dominant force and why the water wouldn't stick to the ball. So I don't see the problem with this with me asking for a physical demonstration of gas molecules being pulled down to an open surface inside of a low pressure system. Simple as that. So I yield the rest of my time, and I hope that we can get some progress with what I've presented today.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys just want to get straight into it? Obviously, because of the tech issues, it's been significantly longer than 8 minutes, so I don't see any reason to waste any more time unless you want to. We should just go for gold.
Okay, well, I'll just give sort of like that little rebuttal for 4 or 5 minutes, and we'll get into back and forth. Yeah, sure. Okay. Thing about Tommy is he's not, he says he's not a flat earther, which is fine, and he doesn't do what a lot of the flat earthers on the internet do. He doesn't make stuff up like Nathan Oakley, who will just make up that diffraction and the Rayleigh criterion causes things to disappear bottom up. He's coming with genuine questions, and I'm kind of going to test how genuine those questions are, because I'm going to answer them all, and then we'll see what response we get back. Do we get back an answer which is like, okay, I'll look into that, fair enough, or do we get back a response which shows that he hasn't listened to a word I said? So we will see with that. Can I share my screen, Creaky, please?
Yeah, go for gold.
Okay, so a couple of things he said there is, he said all the answers are on Google. Says the answers are a quick Google away. And he's right, the answers are a Google away, but you've got to be really, really careful with what you're Googling. Like I said last time we spoke, you can research gas pressure in about 10 seconds, or you can research gas pressure for years. All right. If you're going to research gas pressure for 10 seconds, you're going to Google what is gas pressure, and you're going to get this Key Stage 3 revision definition that's got the word container in it, which is aimed for like 11 to 13-year-old children. And if that is your understanding of gas pressure, you are then going to say a container is the antecedent for gas pressure, because that's the amount of time spent Googling it. Simple as that. There is no other reason for anybody to say a container is the antecedent for gas pressure if you've done any more research than that, right? If we go, maybe a little bit further on, you might look at atmospheric pressure. Or if you go right to the top and you develop an understanding of how the atmosphere works and how entropy in the atmosphere, or the arguments that entropy can be refuted, or how entropy increases through the atmosphere, it's all there. Okay, nothing at all in science says that gas pressure requires a container. What you're talking about is a pressurized system, which I will show you here. And when we did have that first debate, I did ask you, what is the difference between pressure and pressurized? And you weren't sure. So here is the answer, the difference between pressure and pressurized. This is just a teacher's little guide, the way we teach pressure to those 11 and 13-year-olds. We talk about the gas particles moving around and bouncing off the walls. When they bounce off the walls, we get what we call a change in momentum, right? And the rate of change in momentum, or how quickly this is happening, is what gives us our force. But why do balloons pop when we put too much air into them? Well, they pop because the pressure on the inside of the balloon is far, far greater than the pressure on the outside of a balloon. So if you take a balloon, a helium balloon, you let it go. We all know they go up in the air and they pop because the pressure gets lower and lower and lower as they go up in the air. So when people are talking about you need a container, it's the antecedent for pressure. No, you need a container if you want a pressurized system, which is a huge difference in pressures between one part of gas and another. There is no huge difference in pressure in what we actually see and observe. And I'm going to bring you back to this point. You talked about real science that we can demonstrate. You can demonstrate yourself with a simple barometer, right? Or even a bag of crisps that will expand as you walk up a hill. You can demonstrate for yourself that there is a pressure gradient, and you've already admitted there is one. Nowhere in this pressure gradient, nowhere do we have this, a massive pressure next to a low pressure. We don't have that. We don't have, sorry, just let me get rid of that box on the screen. It's for later on. We don't have a massive, massive pressure. We have this little really high bit of pressure here where my mouse is next to this ever so slightly less pressure, point of less pressure here, next to this ever so slightly point of less pressure here. And we get to the top of the atmosphere where the energy these gas particles have got is so low, they can barely cause any pressure at all, you know, next to the vacuum of space, if you like. We do not have anywhere in the atmosphere here. So if I'm going to really go into this discussion any further with gas pressure, I need Tommy to tell me where in the atmosphere do we have a massively high pressured system like this next to a pressure that's lower? Because when flat earthers talk about a pressurized system, they're talking about or gas pressure and a container being an antecedent. They are talking about a pressurized system here, which is completely different. So let's talk about what pressure is. I don't know how long I've been talking, Creaky, but I won't be here too much longer. This is another little tool. This is maybe when we go a little bit higher and we're teaching pressure at GCSE level. We all know force equals mass times acceleration, and every single gas particle that's moving will have a mass and it will have a speed. And when it hits something and bounces off, right, it's experiencing a change in momentum, right, or an acceleration. I won't talk you through the maths here to bore everybody, but essentially from mass times acceleration, we can get change in momentum over time taken. It's essentially the same equation. Anyone who knows anything about mass physics knows that this is the same thing, just written two different ways, but it's exactly the same. So all we need for a force is for a particle to bounce off something. So when we talk about gas pressure, I'm sat down here experiencing 14.7 psi, right, or however many newtons that is, I forget. A gas particle has bounced off my head and give me and produce a force because of its change in momentum. And the more gas particles there are, the bigger that change in momentum, the bigger the force. Nowhere does it say there has to be a container somewhere else. Why should there be a container somewhere else for me not to experience the force when a gas particle hits me on the head? It's just not said anywhere. So really, the whole kind of misunderstanding is this. The flat earthers that I think you've perhaps listened to are touting this, where you have a massive, massive difference in pressure, right, from two different areas, and that's what they're claiming is analogous with the atmosphere. Again, down to what we can demonstrate, and this is the last thing I'll say, we cannot demonstrate a container. We cannot demonstrate anything about the flat earth. We can't demonstrate the sun go around in circles like that. I don't know, you didn't say that was part of your model, but let's stick with gas pressure. We can't demonstrate a container. We can demonstrate a nice even gradient. So according to your definition, your very own definition of demonstrable science, the current model wins, I think. That's what I would say. So we did say that we would have 4 topics, and Creaky was going to be the time master. So we'll go into like how long have we got for the back and forth on this bit, Creaky? Just so Tommy knows.
Well, it's 8 o'clock now, so do you want to do sort of?
He's gone.
I'm here, yeah. I'm still here.
No, not you. No. On my screen, everybody's frozen. I think Creaky's frozen.
All right, no, we're not free. Put some more coal on the fire, Catz.
So it must be my internet. So what do you say about 8 minutes back? Because we did a lot of this last time, and then
yeah, there we are.
Lovely.
Right.
So I name this back and forth, right? My main
on this, and then the next topic. Yeah.
Yeah, you're saying basically the difference between pressurized and a pressure system. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you, mate. Yeah.
So, a pressurized system, because you've put air in there and you've pressurized it, and you're trying to say basically we don't have like a highly pressurized system next to low pressure. It's not that black and white. But I guess the reason that people use this black and white explanation is just to exaggerate the point that we're still, let's say, a grain of sand on a football pitch. The football pitch times 1 billion. So that's how much low pressure is around us on this little grain of sand. So the way I look at it is that it's just a surface that gas is being pulled to, an open surface. So I just need a demonstration of gravity pulling down gas molecules, but we even see everything we can ever conceive about gas. It behaves in omnidirectional. It doesn't have a downward bias. Now you're saying that the downward bias is proved by putting it in a balloon and putting it on a scale and tearing that. And I don't think something having mass and having weight doesn't really prove to me that it's being pulled down by this force. That's what I want. The evidence for that, a demonstration for that.
Can I share screen again, Creaky? Thanks. Okay, right. So, I mean, we first of all to deal with the you want evidence of gas actually being pulled down. The simplest one I can get you to do for yourself is to take your shoes off, take your slippers off, socks off, whatever. Go and open your own fridge door or freezer door, and it's not going to be your face that gets whacked full of cold air. It's going to be your feet because it is moving down. It is pulled down. But essentially, what you're asking for is this. This is what I was trying to explain to you last time. So this is, and you've agreed this. We are not arguing about a gas pressure gradient. You've said there is one. Yeah, we're all happy with that.
Yeah.
So this isn't what we're arguing about. But what you're asking for is this. If I show you at this altitude here where I'm hovering my mouse, we have a certain pressure, a certain density of the gases, a certain energy, right? But what you're asking when you say I want to see gas being pulled down to something, I want to see gravity do that. You're asking me to take a box. And then just because I've got a box that traps this gas here, suddenly, even though it's at the same altitude and the same temperatures, you want it to behave differently. So it's behaving one way here, but just because I put a box around it, you want it to behave differently. What you need, right, is a box that's about that big. But here's where the problem comes in for flat earthers, even want to talk about this. I don't know if you've ever heard about the stack exchange when we look at skyscrapers, which are essentially massive containers. When you do have a massive container like that, the hot air rises and it gets trapped, and it actually causes higher pressures at the top than it does the bottom. And skyscrapers have to be built with all sorts of systems and pressure equalization in place to correct for that. But that's not what we see. So again, none of the evidence suggests that there's any kind of container. And by saying, can you show me the gas being pulled down? I would like to hear from you why these particles I'm highlighted here should deliberately choose to change their behavior just because I put a box around them.
Because it all comes down to the big picture of things. I mean, getting a small sample of that isn't the big picture, and I guess it works both ways. This argument, because what you're saying is I need a large container in order to see that behavioural change, which I think is a good point, but I don't think by saying that gravity is causing what causes the weight. Sorry, answer the question again. What was it exactly? What I'm saying, because I'm going off a different tangent.
I'll just screen share one more time. The question is when you were saying, because it sounded to me last week like what you were saying was, I want you to get a box and show me that. And what I'm saying here is these gas particles are behaving as part of a pressure gradient, which we both admit exists, right? So we're not arguing that. These particles down here are behaving accordingly to the laws of physics. Yeah. So why should they choose, if I just put this box around them here, why should they choose not to behave to the laws of physics, and suddenly collapse to the bottom of the box just because I put a box around them? You're asking them to behave to the laws of physics here, but then when I put them in a box, choose not to behave to the laws of physics. That's the point I'm making about the demonstration you're asking for.
I mean, all gas molecules in the world apparently have been pulled down by the dominant force, which is the gravity underneath us, right? So I'm just asking you to demonstrate gas molecule going down, but you're saying opening a fridge, which I think is cold air, and we know that cold air makes things settle, and hot air makes things rise. Hence why the steam comes out of the ocean. So I don't really think that was a good example. I mean, everywhere I've looked for just gas being to prove that there's an attraction between the Earth and the gas molecule. I've not seen one. You're saying now I need a vacuum chamber the size of God knows how long, and then asking me why that certain gas molecules don't behave in a certain way. I'm just wondering why these gas molecules are even sticking to the surface when we're surrounded by low pressure.
So go on.
That's basically it, really. I mean, I don't know how. I can't really get what you're trying to ask me to explain.
All right, no, so I get your point. So your point is, you're saying we have a pressure gradient moves down. You're happy with that, firmly happy with that. But you're just wondering why even there should be a pressure gradient in the first place if there's a vacuum, if there's a vacuum above it. Is that kind of what you're saying?
I think there's got to be something between us and space, or space isn't what they say it is. If you're saying it's low pressure out there, and yet we're exposed, and it's all around the entire Earth, and yet the gas just seems to stick to the ball, and the ocean sticks to the ball because of all this force, then just, why can't we use the Earth to show us that, rather than just saying, oh, look, because I think that's kind of reifying it. It's kind of like not really giving us a demonstration of what apparently the model is. Now it's an open surface inside a low pressure system with gas being held down to it, and it's not wandering off into that available space. So I just need something to clarify that. But all the examples I'm getting through, like you said with the cold air and why isn't the gas working at this? I mean, I don't know how that relates to the bigger picture of what I'm asking, really. Okay,
I'll answer the question and then just see what you think of it. It's going to get a little bit technical, but right. Sorry, Creaky, can I just screen share again?
Yeah, sorry, pal.
So there's two things at play here. First, you're acknowledging that there is a gas pressure gradient, which can only be happening if there's a downward acceleration. There's a movement, and we know there's a downward acceleration. We know things fall. So we know things. Well, things obviously move towards the Earth when you let go of them. All right. So,
I mean, there's some things go down, some things go up, and I do agree that we have a gradient, but I don't think that gradient is exclusive to the only being gravity being in a region. I do think the biogeochemical cycle is a great contributor to why we have a gradient. I don't think that it's just solely because we're on an open surface in a vacuum, which sense to me logically it doesn't make sense. I think there's got to be something containing it. You're saying gravity's doing it. Well, then let's see gravity do it, but we can't see it.
Well, I'll answer those. I'll start with the because when you talked about the cause of the gradient, you were basically talking about photosynthesis pumping gas in at ground level, weren't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if there is a container, and we talked about this last week, and gas is being introduced at such an incredibly high rate that it prevents it equalizing out because of diffusion instantly, then imagine a balloon, a contained balloon here, where I'm introducing gas at a very high rate. The pressure inside that container is going to increase and increase and increase. We know that. We know if we pump gas into a contained space, especially at the rate that will be needed to overcome diffusion, overcome the rate of diffusion, we know we're going to see massive increases in pressure, and where does that end? And we just don't see that. So it can't be due to production of gas at ground level. If I ask you another question, and then I will give you the explanation that you're looking for.
I just want to point one point out. I do think it's a cycle. So it's like there's for example, things go through, like energy can't be created or destroyed, so it's just constantly coming through a cycle. Do you get what I mean? Like it's like so I don't really think it's like being pushed in and there's all this gas being produced, and the container that apparently we could possibly be in is being putting a lot of pressure on it, and over time it should explode. I don't think that would be that'd be understanding the cycle quite well. It's quite a fine balance.
Well, it would have to be a fine balance that nobody's detected. It'd have to be a rate of photosynthesis that nobody's ever detected. I quite often do experiments with kids at school where we get pondweed and plants. We measure the rate of photosynthesis. We count the bubbles of oxygen being given off. I don't know if you've ever done that.
Nope,
I don't think. Yeah. Right. So basically, it's one of the required practicals at GCSE. You get some pondweed, you put it in a test tube, you put it next to a light source, really close, maximum photosynthesis. You see the bubbles of oxygen come off, and then as you move it away from that light source, the photosynthesis drops, you get less oxygen given off. If you've ever measured the amount of gas being given off by a plant, and don't forget that when plants are giving off that oxygen, which you say is needed for this, they're also taking in oxygen for respiration, and they're also taking in carbon dioxide. So it's not like they're just pumping stuff out; they're taking in carbon dioxide.
Exactly. It's a cycle, it's a transfer.
But they're doing it at the same time. The carbon dioxide comes in, the oxygen goes out, so that's not going to change the local pressure. But the question I wanted to ask you was this: forget what you want to talk. Forget the original question. Just focus on this. If we have a high pressure down here and a low pressure at the top, and we have a continuous pressure gradient, what would your conclusion be? That if we just follow that pressure gradient, what would be above it? What would be above it? If you follow that, what's the natural conclusion?
Yeah, in the heliocentric model, obviously it would just fade out into just keep going lower and lower and lower till it gets to a point where it's 17 negative 2 or whatever they call it. Which like I said, I think that the model that I believed in my whole life, works pretty well. But there's a few things that you just kind of have to just ignore, in my opinion. And this is one of the things you'd have to ignore. I think that it all falls apart if you don't. I think. Well, if you think about it, we got a demonstration of this. No, we haven't. We don't have one, and that's one of the things that brings me as a person to think that even they have a point. Right. Well, what I'll do, because we are bouncing from topic to topic. I'll give my last bit on here, then I'll let you have the last say. No, cool. Yeah. Okay. Right. So I'll finish because one of the things you wanted to talk about as well was entropy, and I wanted to talk about why the gas doesn't just blast everywhere. What this argument is. Now you can find this online. I'll leave this up here, so people can Google the paper and they can read it. It's a free paper to read, and there's lots and lots of citations and references, etc. Of go to your heart's content to check out all the practicals and real science that's gone into it. But essentially, when we talk about entropy in layman's terms, real layman's terms, talking about the spreading out of energy. And I know proper physicists out there are going to be like, no, you can't describe it as that. But that's what people are talking about, aren't they? The spreading out of energy. The gas molecules. Which are carrying that kinetic energy with them. Yeah, so it's now, the way that works in the atmosphere, essentially, is the Earth gets heated from the sun, which gives us our energy, gives us our light in the form of photons, okay? But when the Earth re-emits and radiates that to the atmosphere, it radiates this at the same rate. It's radiating out those photons as it's absorbing them, but it's radiating them out as lower energy photons. So for every one photon that the Earth absorbs, if you like, let's just say it's radiating out 2 that have half the energy. Those aren't the numbers. But I'm trying to make it, I get what you're saying. Now that is a spreading out of energy, right? Because we had energy in one photon, now we've got 2. So increase in entropy. From disorder to order, basically order by separating. Yeah, and that warms the lower part of the atmosphere, which absorbs those photons and then re-emits those, let's say now as 4, which warms up the next bit, which let's say is 8. So even though we're radiating the same amount of energy, entropy is increasing through the atmosphere via that method. And, check out the paper to see if you can find any flaws in it. But when we're talking about entropy through the atmosphere, there is no problem with entropy at all through the atmosphere. By the time we get to those gas particles at the top, like we talked about before, with that gas pressure gradient, they just do not have the energy. They do not have that that kinetic energy left to be causing a pressure to want to go anywhere. And even though gravity is essentially weaker up there, the particles have got so little energy, it's dead easy to hold on to them. Now that's the scientific explanation. Do with that as you will. I'll let you have the last point on it, and then we'll move on to something else. Awesome. Yeah. I think that I don't deny the fact that gas molecules, they have weight. I don't deny that we have a gradient. I don't deny that. What was the point I'm going to make about the gas molecules escaping and not going out into the atmosphere? When it gets weaker, eventually acts as a force. I understand what you're trying to say, but I just think that it's wrong. We just need a demonstration of it. Until I get a demonstration of it, I don't see why I should believe it. I mean, it sounds like a good explanation. But at the end of the day, this can't be shown. That gravity can't be, like, for example, if you're in like let's say you're in internet ISS station and you're floating around, like, you have weight, you have mass, you're made up of weight, so to speak, but you're experiencing weightlessness. That's kind of how I look at it as a gas molecule. It literally is free to go in all directions, bouncing off the walls, and it will remain in motion unless acted upon by an external force. Now, an external force is the key point. The external force of the gas that should be it's not really external, because it's supposed to be constantly at play. So a gas molecule that's constantly at play goes off into the atmosphere. It's got that motion. It's going in motion, and then apparently the gravity, this external force called gravity, even though it was already acting on it when it's already left up, a molecule in motion will remain in motion. unless acted upon by a force, an external force. And there's no external force going on to it. You've got the centrifugal forces, the Earth spinning. You've got the energy from the sun exciting the particles. You've got so much energy going into these gas molecules. They should literally go off into space. And that's all I've got to say. Yeah.
Okay, right. Well, I'll not refute because I did say you could have the last word on it. I'm biting my tongue. But if we ever do have a debate on another forum again, I think the better question then, it seems to me, that is gravity. Whether you just want proof gravity exists, and that will then answer your question. Does that make sense?
Works. If it works on gas molecules the way apparently it's said to, because I mean I don't disagree that we can drop items. I don't disagree with water, but when it comes to actual gas molecules and that's something that I need the book closing on.
Right. So if we ever do this again on another forum, we will we'll maybe make that a topic. Do you want to do your second thing now, or do you want me to do one? What do you think, Creaky? What's the?
It's up to you.
Well, Tom, do you want to do your second thing now, and then maybe we'll run with that for 15 minutes, and then I'll bring my two up.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a presentation or another video?
Sorry, I'm just checking the message. I've got is basically the Black Swan argument for my second argument. That's all I'm bringing today for basically whether the size of the Earth is what it's supposed to be, and if it is, then why are we seeing a horizon at 10 miles from 1 foot in the
air? So I've got a picture of the Black Swan, which if I can, and I'm pretty sure. Why am I not showing that?
What's that now?
Yeah. Now, again, I've got a feeling, just like with the gas pressure, where we should have really been talking about gravity rather than gas pressure. You know what I'm going to say here because you've heard it. So what I'm going to ask you is, why is the obvious argument of the obvious distortion, the fact that this oil rig looks like it's melting like a piece of chocolate?
Yeah.
Why is that not? And the fact that you only see this image when you get distortion to the point where this looks like it's melting. What is the problem with the whole refraction argument?
Well, refraction argument. Well, let's say we can see the oil rig because apparently it's warping, right? So that the light's bending because it's been heated up by the sun or whatever the atmospheric conditions are, the atmosphere that's causing that lensing effect. That's warping, and that's why you're not seeing it like. All right, then. So that's why. So you're saying now, basically, the reason we're seeing that is because it's going over the physical curvature that should be in the way, that should be obstructing it, and the light is bending over that physical obstruction, and flattening out the entire horizon in front of you, and just making it, giving you what's the word? An illusion, basically.
Yeah. So how much of the horizon is it flattening out? Because you said the whole horizon. How far do you think we're seeing there? What measurements have you got?
It's about 10. You can see the horizon at 10 miles away. From
right. How do you? Well, just first of all, how do you know it's 10 miles? How do you get the measurement that it's 10 miles?
You've got the oil rig is a what's the word I'm looking for? I forgot the word I'm looking for. It's like a sort of checkpoint, so to speak. You can check it on Google Earth from the beach where the observer was taken, and you can see that you can check all the details in the video, and you can see that the oil rigs themselves are about 9 miles away, and you can see the horizon is further, much farther beyond that.
Cool. So you're saying that the horizon that we can see is about 10 miles away, and that's somehow impossible. So again, if I just it says I am screen sharing, but I'm oh, there we go.
I pulled it because you were talking.
Oh, sorry. So obviously, again, as a teacher, I teach the refraction, and we do it with kids all the time. This isn't my picture. This one I pull off Google, but we do experiments with refraction all of the time. This is one of my favorite ones. We do this with a laser, and we place a Bunsen burner near the laser, and we can see the dot move because the air is affecting the movement of the light. right? And we can actually measure. We get the kids to plot graphs of, you know, how close the we can't really measure the temperature, want to burn themselves, but how close the laser is to the Bunsen burner, etc., and how much deviation there is in the light. You know, it's just an irrefutable fact that changes in air temperature will cause light to move. Seems to me that you're saying that it's impossible for refraction to show the black swan image. So if that's what you're saying, I'd like to know where you got the information from that it was impossible for it to create the black swan image.
Well, I didn't say the word impossible, but okay. I do think that the way that you're saying the light's coming down from the sun into hitting the oil rig, and the physical curve that should be obstructing my view to that, the light is going up and over the curve, the physical curve, into my eye, and apparently making all the curvature that should be in my way appear to be flat. So I mean, to me, it doesn't seem to compute. Doesn't seem to compute. It just seems like what they're saying is not true. I mean, they show me some pictures of some refraction. You know, you're doing tricks with that, but to say that this is happening equally and everywhere, and it's making the Earth look flatter. And the reason the reason it looks flat is because it's curved, because it's bending it up and making it look flat. That's how you know it's curved, which seems to me a bit like saying, "Oh, you know it's real because it looks so fake." It's like it just sounds like bullshit.
Sorry, I was faffing about to anyone watching getting a headache with my screen share because I was looking for this particular slide. I was listening to you, but because this slide I've got is relevant to what you're saying. Yeah. So how can the bending of light cause something to appear in a different position? Essentially, is what you're asking. So if we look at this. Well, obviously, example of an ephemeral mirage here. That's what this slide was specifically for. When the light is moving from colder into hotter, it's moving into something that's less dense. It's got a different refractive index. It's going to start to refract. Here, I think even it hits a critical angle. But anyway, this is the angle at which it's entering the person's eye. And we know light behaves like this. I can show you with all the pictures that we've. I'll come back to that in a second. But from our brain's point of view, where my mouse is now hovering on this guy's brain. Right, his eyes are used to light traveling in straight lines. So when the light enters his eye at this angle, his brain is assuming that the object is down here. So that's how it causes the optical illusion. Do you know what I mean? And if we were to look at, you know, flattening something out or looking at the opposite direction, again, if refraction was happening in this direction, if this was the curved bit, you know, he would be seeing something kind of like, you know, looming up, looking higher. So I mean, this is established physics. So what I'm saying is, given the fact this is so established, what makes you think that the black swan, which normally looks like this on the right, normally we can never see anywhere near that far. So what makes you think refraction cannot be the answer, you know, for why we
because that leads on to more questions. It says, well, that says, well, if the horizon can move due to atmospheric conditions, then we can never know where the horizon truly is. It's a constantly, you know, so how can people know the measurements of it? And then we go back further and we look into history and we see that he went on an assumption that the Earth was curved. He went on an assumption that the horizon where it's meant to be. So all these things need to be confirmed individually. Now, now you're saying that light comes in, enters it into the eye, my brain converts it to be straight. Now that could be basically not really what's actually happening. Maybe things aren't curved or beyond things, and we're just, because we're led to believe that there's a curve there, that we're led to believe that light's doing these things that it is not. You know,
No, go on.
I just find it hard to believe that what you're saying to me is that the whole reason that things look flat is because everything is bending over physical obstruction because of atmospheric conditions. It's just a bit bizarre.
So two things are true. I found the slide I was actually after, so I need to sort this bloody mess of a PowerPoint out. Can I just screen share this one more time? Sorry. So this is the one that I was actually after. I didn't explain it too well before. So this is the reverse, right? I don't know why I didn't have this next to the other slide, for God's sake. But obviously we know that refraction happens. We know it because we do it all the time. I do it with school kids in the lab. It's something that anybody could do. We understand it to the point where we can create lenses for glasses that refract the light to the exact amount needed to help somebody see. We do it to the point where we can take laser beams and we can reshape somebody's cornea, which is the main point of refraction in the eye. We understand refraction that well that we can correct somebody's sight with laser surgery. So to suggest that we don't understand refraction, and I'm not saying you did that, but to suggest that, for someone to suggest we don't understand refraction is comical. But what you're saying is that, right, okay, this is possible, but without the other evidence that the Earth is a globe, you just don't want to believe it. That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, no, you've like, I know you teach kids all these concepts. I learned a lot of stuff when I was a kid also. It's not like, because we teach kids this, therefore it's stupid that if you don't accept it. I mean, all right, we can teach kids anything. Doesn't mean that it's accurate. Things are subject to change. Science always improving and refining itself. So I find it a bit, ridiculous really saying. I mean, I used to believe everything that's been said, that this refraction was working the way it was. I think saying because we use it in glasses is irrelevant. You're saying, we understand refraction, we know it's true because we do glasses. So because we do glasses, therefore the curvature that I'm experiencing in reality is not there because we know that refraction is true because we do with glasses and refraction. That don't seem to add up to me. I think logically, it doesn't make sense that the entire horizon is bending over a curve, over a physical curve, and appearing to look flat. And by saying that light's entering our eyes in different ways and our brain converts it, means that maybe it's not entering our eyes a certain way. How do we know that our brain's converting it incorrectly? And that's why we're seeing things that we shouldn't see.
So when I say to you that I teach kids refraction, what I'm not saying is I tell them about it and therefore it has to be true. What I mean is this, what I'm going to show you now. I'm saying we hands-on practically demonstrate it all the time. All right. Now, here's an example of Snell's law. I'll not bore you with the details of it, but basically these refer to the angles that light enters and leaves a boundary between two medium. These represent the refractive index of those medium, which basically, think of it of how optically dense it is. So something like glass will have a higher refractive index than something like the Earth. And we can take, and we do when we do this at A level, we can take two blocks that look the same, right? We can take a glass one, we can take a perspex one, we can take different plastics that have different refractive indexes, and we can put them together and we can pass a laser beam through them. And before we do it, and this is the key, before we do it, we can predict exactly the angle, and by changing the angle that we pass the laser into the blocks as well, we predict every single time the angle that it's gonna come out the other side. So it's not that we're just teaching them stuff and saying it's true. Refraction is understood and we get it. Now, if you're going to say that you don't, you're happy that refraction is understood, etc., but you just don't buy it as a reason for being able to see the black swan, then that's fine. But I just want to know what the specific. Like, do you have a specific problem?
Because I've noticed a lot of things with the globe where when it comes against your common sense, there's always like a sleight of hand, or there's always some sort of like, gravity's real. I mean, look, I can drop my phone, or and it's like that's not answering the question. When I don't think that because we understand refraction in certain aspects, therefore it applies for anything. We can just go, because we can make glasses, therefore we can also just say that that's curvature, that's this is that happening. I think that every situation needs an individual sort of understanding or explanation. Now, you've got some good maths. You can show the cosine, and you can do some sort of calculations, make some predictions, and I don't disagree with that. But then to say that because we can do this with glasses and we can do this with things, therefore what you're seeing with your eyes isn't actually what you're seeing, and the Earth's curving. It's not, and things. Is it curving though? How do we know it's? How can we physically measure that curvature? We can't. It's physically impossible to measure it. So all these calculations and all these estimations and all these things are just. That is the true mirage. The true mirage is that because we can make glasses, therefore fraction. I'm sorry.
Not quite. Like you said there about things you can see with your eyes. Like should we not believe it? Okay. Essentially, if we look here, what we see on the right hand side is what we see with our eyes. It's like the Chicago skyline. What we see on 99% of the time, whatever, is evidence of curvature. Evidence of curvature. The only, and this is the key. I'll ask you, why is the only time we see this also accompanied by massive refraction effects.
Yeah.
Back. Why is it, if you were to show me this with no refraction effects here, I'd be saying that is extremely interesting. But why do we only ever see something like this when there is also massive refraction? Why are the two never separated?
That's a good question, and I agree with you that there's a correlation there. But why is it only distorted when you can see more of it? Therefore, it's obviously affected by something. So when it's affected by that thing, that's why you're seeing different things. So I'd say that I wouldn't really I'd concede that point. I wouldn't really argue it. I'd say that seems to be a logically sound point to make.
See, now I don't think the black swan photograph is evidence either way of anything, because unless we have the exact observation heights, unless we have the exact distances, unless we have the temperatures. So I'm not going to look at the picture on the left or the picture on the right and say these are evidence that the Earth is a globe, or these are evidence. It's a standalone picture. It's nothing. But what the flat earthers have been using the black swan for is to say, oh, the Earth has to be flat, can't be a globe, because we can see so far. But I think, like I say, we've addressed that. The fact that we can only see so far when there is refraction means that it isn't a globe destroying tool. It doesn't really say anything either way. You know what I mean? Without all the data and the measurements, which is what I'm going to bring on my next one. So I'll give you the last point on the black swan. I'll stop sharing, and you can say what you want about black swan. I
think it's a good point to make that between the two different images, you've got one, that you can when it's not affected by any sort of there's two things that correlate there, which I think is a really good point. So I'll have to go back and look more why that is, and I think it's an interesting point you brought my attention to. So I appreciate
that. Coolio. Right, I have got a point, but I've just got to find it on the thing. So if you want to sing us a song or something while I'm finding it, sing us that gravity song. Right, how long have we got left, Creaky? And are we going to questions?
It just bleeped now, so that 10-minute segment's finished. It's 8:34, so I'm go to questions if you want. There was something that came up and I've noted it down because, as you all know, I've got the memory span of a senile goldfish. Yeah. The question was, I am paraphrasing, right, because I wrote down what I could remember of it. So somebody asked you, Tom, it says that, so they I think they're just trying to clarify your position. So you wouldn't accept that there is no container without a physical demonstration, and the way I think I'm understanding it, you want Catz to kind of show you something, not necessarily right here, right now, but something that you can see right in front of you with your own eyes as a demonstration of that, yeah?
Okay, I think it's a fair thing to ask, and I think it works both ways. Because I can't give you an actual dome. You can't give me an actual gravity being pulled down.
Yeah, funny enough,
I don't believe there's a. Sorry.
Sorry, Tom. It ties in perfectly with what you're saying, because the second part of it was, so what do you think is the container?
Oh,
what do you think is stopping the atmosphere escaping? And what's your evidence for it? And can you show us that evidence in the same way you were asking Catz to show you the evidence from the other side, if that makes sense? And if it doesn't, it's my fault, because I did sort of note it down as I remembered it.
Mm-hmm. Well, if it isn't, if gravity can pull down the gas molecules, then it's exactly what they say it is in low pressure, and it dissipates into nothingness. But if they can't demonstrate gas molecules, then it's only logical to assume that there must be one. It can't be space out there, which is just void of anything, or two, that there's some sort of physical containment, or three, that it's a different material. Well, sorry, it kind of ties in with the first one. If space isn't what they say it is, it could be, a different sort of material out there. You know what I mean? That could hold gas down, but not let gas pass through. Something like that. So that could be a containment. So basically, you can once you realize that the gravity may not be pulling down the gas molecules, and it's got to be something else. It only leaves you to the only alternative, containment, or a different material containing it.
So in the same way as Catz can't show you a physical demonstration, you can't either then. So it's kind of checkmate on that point.
That's okay. Yeah, totally. Even works both ways. Yeah. Totally great.
Yeah, and like I say, this isn't to catch you out. This is just what came in from the site chat, and it stood out as interesting. And you started to address it before I even asked you the second part. So,
Okay.
that was the main thing I picked up from the chat during the first section. So,
cool.
Are we going to reset for another 15 minutes, Catz, and go from there? Or?
Because we probably just have time for one point. Are we right to screen share and then probably take about 5 minutes, Tommy, to explain this, but then I'll give you equal time to say what you think.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
I'll try and make some notes.
I did mention this to you just before we started, and you said you weren't familiar with this picture. It was one I did. Well, no, I didn't do it. It was one I was sent.
I've seen this. Yeah, I've seen this. Sorry, but when you mentioned the name, I couldn't picture it.
All right. So Isaac got in touch with me, and I've forgotten his last name. Really, really good guy. He took this picture. I spoke to him about it. All the measurements can be found on Peak Finder. So if we're going to question the measurements, we're going to question the accuracy of Peak Finder. Essentially, that's where they've come from. Yeah. And videos have been done that confirm all the measurements, etc. Now, the idea is that this mountain here, right, Mount Rainier in the back, is way taller than this one here, Mount St. Helens, yet it appears lower. Yeah. Now, obviously, when something moves into the distance, and this is what your Nathan Oakleys will say, they're going to reduce the angle of size. They're going to look smaller. Yeah. But the fact is that it just is predictable. It just is simply predictable. You could do it yourself. You could measure the height of a lamppost outside your house, or on a flat road. You could walk 100 meters down the road, and you could, measure the angle, get yourself a little. I've forgotten the name of the bloody things now, but one of the tools that measures the angular size of it. You could predict what it's going to be, and you will be correct if you do the trigonometry, right? Because it is predictable. So when we see an observation like this, we do that prediction, and we say, does the trigonometry say that on a flat Earth, Mount Rainier should be so low? So we take the side peak of Mount St. Helens, which is 6,505 feet. That's the elevation of it. Mount Rainier is 14,000, so it's like about 8,000 foot bigger. Yeah. This is Slice Barkane modeled it on a flat Earth and on a globe Earth. He's modeled both. He's brilliant with modeling software, and what he shows is what we see on a globe Earth, right? But how do we do the working out? This is where the photograph was taken from. And we've evidence of where the photograph was taken from. Yeah. But to be honest, it doesn't make a massive difference to the results. Now, I'm not going to give you a trigonometry lesson unless you want it, but I will show you the steps of working out I did, just in case you think I'm pulling you a fast one. What we can do is we create this as a where the photograph was taken from. We assume that the Earth is flat from there, and we deduct that height from both mountains. And what that allows us to do, because we know the distance to both mountains, it allows us to work out the angular size, right? So how tall, essentially, both these mountains should look. And what we see is that if the Earth is flat, when the angular size of St. Helens, which should be about 1.9 degrees, right? Mount Rainier has a bigger angular size, and if we treated it as 1.09 degrees, 877 meters, right, nearly a kilometer of that mountain should be sticking above this side peak. And we talked about predictive, how predictive science is and how it works. For this should be 800 meters, right, above this side peak, but it's level with it. Now, that on a flat plane is just impossible. So I'm just interested in what your thoughts are on actual observations, unlike the Black Swan, where we do have measurements and you can check them on Peak Finder for yourself. I just wonder what your thoughts are.
I think the logical path you've gone through to find out the different sizes, the distances between them, you can then work out the angular, predict the angular size that they'll drop due to the distance, and then you can prove them consistency. Then you can prove you can then build up everything from there, which is great. I never would use over land because I know that land's uneven, so it's difficult then to also factor in the difference between the distances of the two mountains and what sort of how it's sitting on the Earth's crust or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So.
So this is height above sea level. This was height, although it's on land. These heights are height above sea level.
These are heights above sea level.
Yeah, so whatever kind of like local topography you've got between you and the map is cancelled because the peaks taken are height above sea level, so that cancels that out.
But the actual Earth itself is going to be it's going to be
Curved.
wrong. Yeah, no, not curved, but you got what I'm saying. It's going to be.
So end it now. I've got to go.
What do you mean? Like, so that's taken at sea level, the height, yeah, the height levels from sea, but the distance between where you're taking when you're looking over land, aren't you? You're looking into a mountain and a mountain behind it.
So what we're saying here is like that's why the observation was taken 327 meters above sea level. So yeah, there's local topography happening down here, but we've ruled all that out because we just put a flat line. See what I mean? That's why we did that. So all that local topography is gone, and we've subtracted it from the height of the two mountains above sea level. We've essentially created a flat Earth. We've just moved the flat Earth up a little bit and shortened the mountains, but that's what we've done, and it's not showing.
Good.
So and Fly Sparkane's modeling software gives exactly. If you look at this here, this bottom photograph, right. This is Mount Rainier is this orange thing here that I'm hovering over. The side peak of St. Helens is the green bit, and the main peak of St. Helens is this purple bit. So basically, when we go back to the photograph, this is the orange bit, okay, which is this bit here. This is the green bit. Sorry, this is the green bit. It's covered in green there, isn't it?
It's color coded. It's color coded.
So yeah. Anyway, I'll pass it back to you.
What's the eye level? The purple.
So the eye level is where this was. The eye level was put on afterwards. This is what would have been on level with 327 meters. So just if you wanted to know what 327 meters will be, I'm not sure why that was put on there or whatnot, but that's like what you'll be looking at. This is about 327 meters above sea level, but it's not that line. Isn't used in
basically is it increases elevation, got like a cut out a lot of the Earth and then correlated the two mountains and stuff. I can see what you're trying to do and he's got like a in between. Above soil level, not too far in the air, and he's using them as sort of reference points. But even then, you're still going to have deviation between the two. So I just don't see how him elevating it cuts out that variable. I don't see how that.
These are my maths. Okay, what you'd get is these are obviously coming down here. What we're saying, the reason we have to do this. Sorry, I should have said this before, right? The reason we have to do this to get we want the most reliable and simple trigonometry. Right, and better mathematicians out there might be able to do it without. But if we create this straight line here and deduct it from the bottom of the mountains, that allows us to create a right angle triangle, which just makes the maths easier. It gives us the same answer. It's the same. Someone like the Rumpus, right, would be able to do it without deducting it. He will get the same answer just because his maths is just way better than mine. Now. It is just as simple as that. The maths works out whether you deduct it or not deduct it. I've deducted it because I'm not a professional mathematician, but it gives you the same because it creates a right angle triangle. It's just easier to use SOHCAHTOA trigonometry to do it. So that's why I've done that, but it gives you exactly the same answer.
Yeah, I'm just working out between Rainier and St. Helens, even though you increase your elevation to go over the Earth and cut that piece out, why the different sorts of elevation between Rainier and St. Helens isn't going to be? How do you factor that in? I mean,
because this blue bit here is the sea.
Okay,
right? So you can have all sorts of land. This is the sea. So these heights here are the height above the level.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So this is the flat. All the heights are judged against, if the Earth was flat, a level marker. They're all are judged against that same level marker. So you could have loads of height.
But the surface, even though even though the actual surface is uneven, it needs to be done over water. I don't think by going on that peak where he took the observation from really factors out the deviation between St. Helens and Rainier. The rocky surface is going to be uneven from there, so I don't see how going that cuts it out.
What I don't want to do, right? If I was maybe on a different channel or debating somebody else, I'd probably make more of a meal of the trigonometry. But I don't want to do any of that because you're always dead respectful when you come here. But what I'm just going to say this, okay? Go away and just refresh your knowledge on trigonometry. Come back and have a look at what we've done. and then tell me that it doesn't work then. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
I'm not saying it don't work. I'm not making the claim that what you've done here is doesn't work and it can't be happening. I think it's great observation. I think it's great way that he's trying to work it out, and I think that's literally how you should go about working out whether the Earth's curved or not. And I think that's a great way of doing it. My only rebuttal to it was that I would only want to see something over the sea, because I do feel like the Earth is uneven. And even though that I'm saying that the Earth is uneven, we can all agree that. And even though you're saying that my lack of geometry is why I don't understand how the rocky surface doesn't really factor in, even though you've gone to an elevation. I still just think it's probably just it's good. It was a good shot, but I think the best shot would just give us some over water. Because I just think over land things can be tricked, and I need to go through all this stuff to actually nail down what he's done wrong, or maybe what possibly could be done wrong.
Yeah. So the harsh reality when you're looking at stuff over water, just see if I can get that black swan image again. What the hell have I done with it? So the harsh reality. So let's say if you're looking at land, how many because land is so far away, how many places on Earth can you actually even see one big landmass from somewhere else? And if you're looking at a boat or an oil rig, how do you get that really accurate calculation of how far away it is? But what I will say is that why hasn't the reverse happened? Why has somebody not been able to show a landmass that we can see right to the very bottom from a distance that is totally impossible? The black swan that we keep seeing, even that isn't showing things to the very bottom.
I mean, at the end of the day, most people like yourself, you've been educated in what works in that particular way, and anything outside that is going to be wrong because you've learned that particular one way. But I think that if we were taught a different way, and maybe like if we never assumed that it was curved, if we never assumed that it's going over a curvature, maybe like look at the things that the viewing angle. Like if you're looking straight at something, and even though, like, let's say I put a brick on the floor and I walk away from that brick, eventually, even if that surface is flat, I won't be able to see that brick, because the angle for the let's say it's pixels or whatever to go into my eye are going to be so small. The angle's going to be so it's going to disappear. Do you know what I mean? It's just going to vanish, but it's not gone anywhere. The brick's still there. It's still on a flat surface, but it's going to appear to be gone, and that's what we're happening now. So.
And do you know why it would appear to be gone?
Why would it appear to be gone? Because you just can't. You ain't got the angle for it. The more angle, the more exposure to it, then the more it will go into your eye, and the more you'll see of it.
So the angular size, and essentially what you're talking about is the Rayleigh criterion, where when you look at 2 points of an object, the light will enter your eye, and it will create diffraction. I'm not screen sharing now, am I?
No.
Don't screen share me. I just want to get the picture. I'll just explain that to you, just so you know where I'm coming from with this. Bob the Science Guy did a brilliant video, and I wish I had the link. Maybe someone in the chat can link it. Sorry, I need to shorten these PowerPoints. All right, here we go. Right. So if I slide, if I screen share. So again, like I said before, when I say to you that this is what we teach kids at school, I'm not saying I'm not trying to say that to be patronizing. I'm saying we do this because we do it using experiment all the time, so I know it works. Okay.
Yeah.
So we can pass a light, through a grit, or we can pass it through a circle, and we can see diffraction happen. Right, a diffraction pattern looks a little bit like this. And when you look at that brick and you walk away from it, let's say the ray of light from the top of the brick and the ray of light from the bottom of the brick, when they pass through the aperture of your eye down. Yeah. Oh, am I screen sharing? It doesn't look like it's.
No, I'm listening.
Oh, I've got.
You're not screen sharing, but I can hear what you're saying.
Oh, I've got. It's a diagram I'm trying to show. I can't hear you, Creaky mate. You're muted.
God. You said you didn't want it shown. You do want it shown.
So, yeah, I did. I was in it. I just wanted time to find the slide.
I was wondering what you were going on about, because you were trying to explain it to him and he couldn't even see it.
Sorry. So this is what I'm talking about. Here's your diffraction pattern here.
Okay.
And when light travels through an aperture, it sort of spreads out, and that's what these little peaks represent. But you get that from every single part of an object. You look at the top of an object, you look at the bottom of an object, and this creates, on your eyeball, as it passes through your pupil, it creates these patterns. Now, what you're talking about, something gets too small to see, is when the diffraction pattern from the top of the object and the diffraction pattern from the bottom of the object gets so close together that essentially the peak, the central peak of one, not even before they converge, the central peak of one goes over the first kind of like minimum of the next, and we call that the Rayleigh criterion, which I'm sure you've heard. Now the thing about the Rayleigh, it's the thing that Nathan Oakley claims is the reason things disappear bottom up. All right, but he's clueless. Anyway, the Rayleigh criterion is worked out by this here, right? And we use diffraction and these equations for diffraction in A-level physics all the time. They work. You know, these aren't things that we just we're just telling people work. They work. We use them all the time. Now, Bob the Science Guy did an absolutely fantastic video, and he put the numbers into this for I think it was just a building, a normal like high-rise building or something, and how far away you would have to get before that building completely vanished due to the Rayleigh criterion. And it was something like hundreds of miles. So essentially, when these things vanish, or we can only see the top little bit of it because of 20 or 30 miles, it's not due to the Rayleigh criterion.
Okay.
So it's not due just to the fact that you're walking further back. It kind of is what I'm saying.
And that's because you've mathematically worked it out, because using them calculations, that where were them calculations derived from? What experiment were they used on?
Right. Well, I don't know if you're familiar with Clive Wells. He's using. I don't know if he's in the chat tonight. Clive Wells is usually in the chat quite a lot.
Yeah.
I'm just going to see if he is. I'm just going to search for him. He's not. But Clive Wells has actually got a video on how the Rayleigh criterion was derived and where it all come from. On his channel. It's you know, it's good stuff. But the fact is that these are the things that we use all the time. Like this simple.
I understand. I agree that. But like some things may work in some scenarios, but then like that's why I look into what's actually been like. For example, we say things go down. Yeah, things do go down. Some things go up, like gravity. I mean, I don't want to go back to the old subject, but I want to use that correlative sort of thing. Now we have something that works in a certain situation. Now we're applying it to everything. That it all behaves the same in every scenario, and that's why I would want to know where they got their math for that particular thing right. Which obviously we both haven't got time to go into and look into now. But that's what I would look at. Okay.
I can show you this one. It's actually on the screen. It will be. So essentially, this is the version. I mean, or at least our understanding of diffraction. That we teach kind of like at AS, like year 12. Mm-hmm. So we have this isn't an aperture, this is two slits. It will work well with one slit. It's all the same principle. We have a ray of light from here traveling to this point P. We've got a ray of light here traveling to this point P. And what we say is, because we know that these rays of light travel as waves, if they hit point P in phase, right, which means they're going to, you've heard of the constructive interference where it goes brighter and the destructive where it goes darker.
No.
That's what you see on this here, on this red thing here, which is what we do with the kids. You see these red patches and these dark patches.
Yeah.
If you shine a laser through one of these, we call it a diffraction grating, this is what you will see. The red patch. And one of the pieces of coursework that we do with the kids is we get them to figure out the wavelength of the light, and we match it up with the laser to see whether they're correct or not.
Yeah.
But essentially where it's worked out from is this here, right? This bottom ray of light, this is what we call the path difference. This is how much further the ray of light at the bottom has had to travel than the ray of light at the top to reach point P. Now, if during this path difference here, if during that path difference there, the light has traveled one whole wavelength or multiples of that wavelength, so it arrives back here kind of in phase with the other one, then we'll get constructive interference. If it's traveled half a wavelength, for example, we'll get a dark fringe. We'll get
basically the frequency of the way that things are going from a difference. It's sort of
So you imagine the top of a wave and the bottom.
I get you. Now I'm with you. I get what you're trying to say. And over distances, that it depends on what point you look at it, you'll get like a different sort of wave, basically. Hence, what you got these resolved and the criteria, the relation criteria. I've got you saying unresolved. So unresolved might be like, let's say 0.1, and then the one in the middle is like that 0.2, and then the 1.3, and it goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It depends on them particular points.
This isn't necessarily about the resolution, but anyway, to resolve it, this path difference here is we create a right angle triangle. We use simple trigonometry, which is this sine theta comes and there's a distance. Yeah. It's basically simple trig, which we applied to the mountains before. Yeah. And the point I want to say that was that we know trig works. Yeah. The point I want to say that was that we know trig works. Yeah. The point
You did
We know
someone's
Trig.
dragging.
You
did someone's dragging. Hello? You did someone's dragging. Hello? Check.
We got a bit of feedback there.
Yeah.
So the point is like that
on
works. That works with the A-level kids. They can use it. They can take any laser you buy from a shop. We can give it them without them knowing what it is. They can find the wavelength of it because trig works and it works in all sorts of situations. It's not just, it works in this situation, so therefore it's going to work for everything. We test these things in all situations. And if they don't work, well, then, it doesn't work. And we look for the bigger answer that does work. You know what I mean?
I think it's hard. It's a difficult position for me to rebuttal at the moment because we're talking about how light works and how different sorts of points of when you're checking that light at the distances you travel, you're going to get different effects. And this is a completely different subject that I'd need to look into. But I'm getting the gist of what you're teaching here. To fact about what was it? Where did all this come from? What was his for? What was his for? To prove that things don't disappear when you walk away from them. This is why they happen.
They will. Clive Wells has just popped up in the chat actually.
But it just won't work on a tower because you need extreme distances in order for that to be consistent.
Way further than what we see. Yeah. Okay. So distances way further than what we see. Clive Wells has derived it in a video on his channel. Bob the Science Guy has applied the maths to it to show how far away. But then again, like I said, these are just to look at the angular distance something will be is again something you can test yourself on your own street. Find a flat street with a lamppost. You can do it with that, and you can work out how small that angle will be at a certain given distance. And then when you look at something over water and you're missing actually the top half is as wide as it should be, right? But the bottom half has gone. Why is it not reducing widthways at the same way it's reducing in terms of its height? That defies all the laws of geometry and optics. Just defies everything. So,
yeah, I mean, I'd have to look into that. Like all I can say about that bit about the tower apparently needing extreme distances, and I can see why. I get the idea of why you say it would need that because you've worked out the different sorts of the rate that apparently the light travels and the way that they converge. But like I said, I need to look into all that further in order to give a fair example. But I do notice that a lot of people they keep jumping around topics. They'll go like, "Oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? What about this?" You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, not everybody's going to be an expert in everything, you know what I mean? And I think, it's just a situation I couldn't give you an answer on, but I do think that a lot of Globers don't really tend to try to falsify what they just try to prove what the model already says. So I wouldn't be surprised if this guy that you referred to is just gone out there to prove his point rather than trying to falsify his own point, if that makes sense.
Right, well, I mean, Clive, what I say is in the chat, I'm sure we'll post and you can click on his channel thing later on and look at the video. Yeah. So he's just showing how it's derived, but the fact is that the Rayleigh criterion is, if you just search scientific papers on Rayleigh criterion, look at papers that talk about the application of it, you'll see that it's not just some person that's come up with this. This isn't like one person who's in a battle between flat Earth and globe Earth and decided to say something. This is just established science, like the like trigonometry. It's just established stuff. But it is 9 o'clock. I will give you the last word. And then I don't know if you've picked up any questions or super chat questions that you want to fire off.
To be honest, there's only been one super chat come in, and there hasn't been a lot of question asking in the side chat, if I'm being honest. So if we let Tommy have
you can have the last word, Tommy.
His final say.
I don't know how me asking for a physical demonstration is a misunderstanding of the model. I don't understand how, just because I'm arguing for things that, like, gas molecules being pulled down by gravity, therefore I think the Earth's flat. Like, I think a lot of people in general need to open up your own mind and think that I'm just somebody who wants to find out how the things about the world by saying, because I don't accept every answer that's been given to me like I used to. You have to question the reality you live in. You have to question whether these things are true or not. And by right, fair enough, there's complicated maths, there's papers, there's all this stuff that you can read into and spend your lifetime learning. But at the end of the day, we can all agree with physical demonstrations. We can all agree with things that we can see. And 90% of things can be proven with a lot. If anything, everything should be able to be proven with a physical demonstration because it's the reality we live in, unless it violates it. It's the only reason that we shouldn't be able to demonstrate something if it can't be done.
And all I'll say, and this is my last thing, and I'll pass back to Creaky. What I think is the demonstrations that certainly a lot of flat earthers ask for are demonstrations that nobody supporting the heliocentric model support. So, pouring the water on a ball, nobody supports that. Putting a box around some gas pressure here, nobody supports the idea that it should make the gas obey a different, law of physics. So, but that's it. But we said that before. I'll pass you back to Creaky.
Yes, I'm not muted for once. Go me. The super chat that came in, I can't scroll far back enough to find it now, but I've still got it on screen. It's from Sarcastic Barman, and he wants to know why Tommy. It was when you were talking about Mount Rainier, is it, Catz?
Yeah, Mount Rainier.
Yeah.
Why you think the bits in the middle?
Oh yeah.
The heights are above level, and we know the distances in between. Is he missing something?
I definitely am. I mean, I definitely wanted. I need more time to go through that thoroughly because it was, I've never seen the observation before. I've never seen anything. So results taken. So given more time, yeah, I'd get my head around it. But off the bat, no, I'm not going to say I understand something if I don't. I do think that when I asked about the differences between the level, why doesn't that add up to the elevation? Why does that factor out? And I never really got a straight answer for it.
All right. So the reason essentially is like if you're, I don't know, let's say you're 6 foot tall, okay?
Yeah.
And I know you're 6 foot tall from the ground, and I'm looking at you from 10 foot away. The fact that there may be, some beanie bags or tables or cushions that affect the height between me and you along the way doesn't stop you being 6 foot tall above the ground and me being able to predict how high you should look. So that's why we're saying that's irrelevant because it would only become relevant if it was taller than you and blocked you out.
Yeah. Hello. Check.
No, yeah, that's it, yeah.
So basically what you're saying is you take the measurement from the top then, because I'm 6 foot and I'm so far away, you take the measurement from the top, you don't worry about the floor. And then because the
top to sea level.
You top to sea level. And then
but bear in mind that what I showed you before, the calculation, that was presupposing a flat earth. That's what I was doing. So what I was showing there was presupposing the earth was flat and seeing whether that observation was possible. I presupposed it was flat. I made it as flat as I possibly could, measured everything from the top down to sea level.
Yeah,
and it was still over 877 meters out.
Oh, okay. Now I'm getting with you. Yeah, that was explained better. That went in. That seemed going to be in. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, yeah, brilliant.
Cool. Right. Who knows when we'll do? It'll be a while if we do it again, but it's always a pleasure to have you on because it actually feels like a proper conversation. You know what I mean? So thanks for coming on. It's been it's been good.
No worries.
It's been great. I really appreciate it.
Interesting as always. And to be fair to you, Tom, you don't get offended when somebody asks you a question, and you are the only flat earther I have ever come across who will say, I don't know, but I will do my best to find out.
Yeah. I'm not a flat earther.
Making something up.
I'm literally, I can't prove
you're not the first, you're the first globe denier.
That's right, yeah, more like globe denier. That's it, yeah. It's flat globe skeptic. No, I'm just forgot the word I was going to use. I don't deny anything. I'm interested in. I'm in pursuit of truth.
Yeah. But what I mean is, you are more than happy to say I don't know, which is rare.
Yeah, of course. But if I said about a recipe about something, you probably wouldn't know it either. But it's like you can just keep bringing stuff up to people. Eventually, they're going to not know something. Yeah. But I've only came today to argue, gas molecules being pulled down by gravity, and why are we seeing too far? That's it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Well, it's been great. I've really enjoyed it.
Brilliant. All right. Thanks a lot, mate. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
No worries.
Right,
thanks to everyone in the chat.
Yeah. Thank you to Sarcastic Barman for super chatting. Thank you to Tommy for getting here on time, actually early. and until next time.
Yeah, man. Until next time.
Take care, everyone.
All right, ciao, lads.
Bye.